Everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining this live webinar, this live TrendSpider webinar. My name is Mike. I'll be your host today. And today we're going to be talking about how to find the next big small cap runner. And we're going to be doing this by analyzing some of the previous and recent winners from the small cap sector. Specifically, we're going to be showing you guys a lot about Oscar Health stock, or ticker OSCR, which has been super hype lately all over social media, and for good reason, because it's ripped over 300% from its 2023 lows there, from quarter three of 2023. Its market cap went from less than 1 billion to over 3 billion, and I think it peaked at around 5 billion. So it's been a crazy mover, and everybody's been super hype about it now, but that's a hindsight move. So my goal for this webinar today is to show you guys how you can find the next Oscar Health stock before it breaks out. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to reverse engineer the fundamentals and the technicals of Oscar Health to essentially find out what was the catalyst for this massive breakout. And so let's just get right into it. We're going to start by analyzing 4 fundamentals and then 1 technical filter to show you guys what the catalyst was for this Oscar Health breakout. And then from there, we're actually going to take all the same qualities that, proved what worked for Oscar Health, put it into a scanner, run it through a small cap index called the Russell 2000, and we're going to get a curated list of stocks that are setting up just like Oscar Health was setting up. All right, so let's get right into it. The first fundamental we're going to analyze is going to be one of the most simple, but one of the most effective fundamentals, and one of the most important is going to be revenue. And we're going to be using the fundamentals indicator on TrendSpider, and I just plotted it on my chart. And if you want to go ahead and do this yourself, you can click the indicators tab up there, type revenue, scroll down to the one that says revenue, and then fundamentals. Simply click on it, and then it'll add to your chart after you click apply. I already have it up here, so I just unhid it from my menu over there on the left. But basically, TrendSpider makes it incredibly easy for you guys to see any fundamental plotted on the chart directly next to the price action. Not many platforms can do this, if any others, I'm not sure, but it makes it super easy to see how a company's price is reacting to any given fundamental. And you can see in this case of Oscar Health, the revenue was growing pretty much straight up and to the right, which is obviously an insanely good catalyst for a small cap company or any company to show, nice growth and the start of an uptrend. But specifically, we of course want to see revenue growth, yes, but I want to specifically look at the percentage gains that we're seeing here on top of these green dots. So to quickly explain how this fundamentals indicator works is that you see a green dot when this quarter beat its previous year's quarter. For example, in quarter 1 2024, we see this green dot with 45.8%. That means quarter 1 2024 revenue beat quarter 1 2023's revenue by 45.8%. And so it grew that much year over year. And this is going to be very important to know as we go ahead and build the scanner here in just a moment. So of course, revenue growth is definitely something we're going to want to see. And you can see it on the reports tab over here as well. All these green bars indicate the same thing as the green dots. It was literally growing every single quarter. So we'll keep this in mind for when we're searching for the new small cap runners. And then the next one, the next fundamental that I want to show you guys is EPS, or earnings per share. Now, of course, revenue and earnings per share are pretty much the most important or the most prominent fundamental aspects of a company that investors are looking at when earnings drop. So I figured we have to include them in here. And just like the revenue, the EPS of Oscar Health has all these green dots. It's been growing each quarter by quite a bit. We did have, you see, a 6.4% growth there in quarter 4 of 2024, which sort of correlated with a little bit of a dip right there, which is okay, but that's good context to know for when we go ahead and build the scanner here in a second. And also, if you can notice, right over here, you can see when I hover over it, you can see that in this case, in like Q4 of 2023, the EPS was negative, meaning the company was not profitable in that quarter on a net income basis. But from Q4 2023 to Q1, it flipped to positive, and it's flipped a little bit back from negative to positive. So let me show you guys a metric that's a little bit easier and better to use for small cap companies that just aren't always profitable, since they're smaller companies. A lot of smaller companies simply just don't have a positive net income, and that one is going to be operating cash flow. Well, the next two, it's going to be operating cash flow, and then we're going to do a valuation metric called EV to sales. But first off, let me show you the operating cash flow, or as it's called, net cash from operating activities here in the TrendSpider platform. And if you can notice, we had 3 red dots right here from the beginning of 2023 up to Q3 2023. But then look what happened in Q4. It went from negative 1 billion to positive. And when that happened, you can see the start of this uptrend essentially started, and it was highly correlated with this rise in operating cash flow. Now, operating cash flow is widely used by investment banks and just fundamental analysis at firms to build a discounted cash flow analysis. So it's a very important metric to understand, especially for small cap companies that don't have a positive net income or aren't profitable, because this number usually tends to go positive before the net income. So definitely going to be using this one in our scan once we build it here in a second. And then finally, the last one I want to show you guys is a valuation metric, like I was saying, called the EV to sales ratio, or the enterprise value over sales ratio. Now, this is similar to something like you may have heard of called like the price to earnings ratio, or even the price to sales ratio, in the sense that it just gives you a general overview of how much a company is worth. And the lower these numbers are, including the price to sales, price to earnings, and this EV to sales ratio, you want them as low as possible, because that means the company is undervalued. And in the case of the EV to sales ratio, anything I would say, from 0 to 10 is pretty good, like a reasonable valuation. And in OSCR Health case, you see right up here, if you can see, it's a little small. When I go back over, it's going to be right where this green dot is. You can see the valuation, the EV to sales ratio is trading under 1, just like 0.15 here, 0.3, which is actually insanely good for any company, let alone a small cap. And so we're going to keep this in mind again for when we go ahead and build the scan. And finally, the technical filter that we're going to be using as part of our scan is just going to be the 50-week SMA. And I picked this because it's a really just good general indicator of the overall trend of a stock. And as you can see, when the stock was trading below this 50-week SMA, it pretty much was just making lower lows. But then over here, when we started getting closer to Q4 of 2023, and it started breaking above the 50-week SMA, that's when it really went on its uptrend, and it was a good time to buy. So when we build the scan, we're going to have a filter that filters out stocks trading below this line. Okay. And now, before we get into building the scan, instead of just analyzing one single stock like OSCR Health, which is great and all, I want to show you guys one other one that popped off quite well from the small cap sector, and that is HIMS stock, HIMS and HERS Health. Relatively somewhat same sector, and as you can see, it popped off pretty much like 600% from the low, over 700% from the bottom to the top. So I just want to align these metrics up and make sure they were showing the same things before we go ahead and build an entire scan just based off OSCR Health. And so as you can see, the 50-week SMA technical filter definitely holds up. You would have been fine pretty much waiting for it. You could have bought here when it broke above, but essentially when it broke above here again in Q4 2023, it went on this massive uptrend, and it even used that 50-week SMA as a support multiple times. So I think that technical filter is going to be great for these small cap names. And then I'll put the revenue up. And obviously, as you can see, the revenue growth has been insane, straight up and to the right, and pretty similar to Oscar Health. It was growing by at least 40% each quarter. So we can confirm that when we build the scan, we're looking for a solid revenue growth of probably like over 40%. So we'll check that off the list. Let's check the EPS real quick. We already, know these fundamentals work. I just want to confirm how the numbers work compared to Oscar Health on another big runner. As far as EPS, pretty similar as well, was growing over 30% each quarter, and a clear up and to the right trend is definitely what we're going to be looking for. So that one is pretty good. And probably one of the most important ones that I want to look at is the valuation metric, which is the EV to sales ratio. And this is going to be really important to compare because I want to make sure we set a decent limit on this one. I don't want to set it too low because, like I was saying earlier, an EV to sales ratio less than 1 is honestly pretty rare, especially in small caps. And so let's go ahead and see what HIMS was trading at. And if you can see over here at the top left, it was trading anywhere from like 1 to 5 before it broke out. Definitely not under 1. So this gives us good context for when we go ahead and build the scan here in a moment, that we definitely don't want to filter out stocks trading above a 1 EV to sales ratio. In this case, probably something 5 or lower would have also caught HIMS. And of course, we definitely would have wanted to have caught HIMS in our scan if we were scanning back in Q4 of 2023, because we would have made a lot of money if we did. Right? And real quick, let's just check out the operating cash flow. And again, straight up and to the right, looks great, growing over 200%, over 100% in this quarter. So very, very solid. And then just one more thing before we get into building the scan, and I show you guys, the stock's ready to pop off now. I wanted to show you guys pretty much the dangers of investing in small cap names and how you can avoid taking losses, because trading small caps and investing in small caps is always risky. And even though a company like I just pulled up here, Teladoc, was once a winner and doing incredibly well in the 2020-2021 boom, as you can see, it can turn sideways very quickly. So let me show you guys how you could have spotted this on TrendSpider using all of these same stuff. So for one, the revenue looked great. There was nothing wrong with the revenue growth. It was going up and to the right. The real story is kind of shown here with these other smaller metrics that maybe some of you guys maybe don't know of, or that's just less investors are looking into, other than just revenue and EPS every quarter. And the most prominent one here is definitely the operating cash flow, because as you can see here, right at pretty much the peak, the operating cash flow in Q4 of 2020 declined massively. The revenue was still going up, but you can see the operating cash flow got destroyed and went negative. And it happened right at the peak, you guys. And so that's why it's important to have a platform like TrendSpider, especially when you can plot these fundamental metrics on the chart, because just imagine if you would have been able to see this and you were trading Teladoc. There was a clear warning sign here. I mean, look at it, dropped 700% in Q4 of 2020, and then another 185% in Q1 in 2021. And this also wasn't just some hindsight bias. Like, this drop happened literally before this dump happened. And so if you're looking at all these metrics, you would have easily been able to spot this and potentially get out on time. And as you can see, also when it broke our technical filter, the 50-week SMA, that would have been an excellent, spot to pretty much set a stop loss, because it really didn't return ever since it broke that 50-week SMA. So you can even just like right-click this line and set an alert as we go forward and find our new stocks, and set an alert to let you know if it's breaking this support line. And so you can know how to get out when things turn sideways. And it was a similar story with the EPS. I'll just show you real quick. Right at the top, you saw the EPS starting to decline, which is a clear sign that the company was not doing well. So that's why it's important to just look at everything that you see instead of just something like revenue, because the revenue still looks great, but that's sometimes just not enough. Right? And so now that I've shown you guys all this, let's get into, building this scanner. And so we're going to open the market scanner here at the bottom. You can just click market scanner if you're following along. We'll skip to editor, and we're going to name this scan small cap radar. And we're going to set it to search in an index. Click index there and type Russell 2000, because the Russell 2000 is the small cap index. And then we're going to do add a condition group right here. And we're going to start by creating our first condition group, which is revenue growth. And so this scan, you guys, it's going to scan for everything that we just analyzed on the charts. Of course, that's going to be revenue growth, EPS growth, operating cash flow growth, a price EV to sales ratio filter, and then also our technical filter using the 50-week SMA. So once I name it there, revenue growth, I'll add a condition with the fundamentals right here. I'm going to type revenue for revenue growth. Click that. And then I'm going to do this last quarter's revenue is greater than a fundamental again. Also, again, type revenue from 4 quarters ago. And if I plot the revenue on the chart, basically what this specific scan is looking for is any green dot. And then what I can also do is I can click these 3 dots and add by at least margin, and I can add a specific number percentage gain that I want to view to use in our scan results. And if we go back to OSCR Health, let's see what the numbers are telling us. Again, this one is growing like over 40%. I think they're all growing over 40%, but I don't want to get too specific in the scan, because honestly, I would be okay if a company was growing 30% maybe, or even 20%. So just to not filter out a bunch of potentially good names, I'm going to name it 15% or give it 15%. All right. And then I'm going to do this twice. I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to do 2 consecutive quarters of 50% growth. So basically just searching for 2 green dots with at least 15% there. So I think that's a good starting point for revenue. So let's go ahead and move on, create our next condition group, which is going to be the earnings per share filter. And so we'll do, again, fundamentals. We'll type earnings per share. We'll use basic is greater than, again, fundamentals, earnings per share, basic. And we'll do it 4 quarters ago. And the reason we're doing 4 quarters ago is because that's what this is measuring. It's basically would measure, like quarter 1, 2025 compared to quarter 1, 2024, which is generally what you do when you're analyzing a year-over-year comparison. And so as far as EPS goes, let's put the numbers back on the chart and see what they were telling us. So in OSCR's case, it was growing quite a bit, but we did have just a 6% gain right there. So I don't want to make it 15%, definitely. And I remember seeing, on HIMS, it grew just 0.6% right here. So honestly, especially for EPS, since a lot of these small cap companies are not profitable and will probably a lot of the time have a negative EPS, I'm not even going to add this by at least margin. I'm just going to search for any sign of growth whatsoever, even if it's 0.1% or 0.6%. If the EPS has a green dot at all, I want it to show up on our scan, is what this is saying. And we'll name this one, to keep it organized, positive EPS trend. All right. And then for the next condition group, let's keep it moving. We will search for operating cash flow growth. So add a condition with a fundamental, and then operating cash flow is called net cash from operating activities here in the platform. So we'll click that, and we'll click greater than a fundamental. Again, type net cash from operating activities. Boom. Same thing. We're going to analyze the last quarter, the current quarter, to the quarter 4 quarters ago. And then again, let's double check on our charts again what we're dealing with as far as the add by at least margin goes, because we want to make sure we capture as many good small cap runners as we possibly can. Hold on here. Sorry about that. So if we look at the numbers, if you can recall, I was explaining how it went from negative to positive in quarter 4 of 2023, which is great. And then ever since then, it had all these green dots. So we want to be searching for these green dots, but by how much percent? As you can see, there is just a 16% gain right there. So we want to make it something under 16 to match up. Let's check out what HIMS was doing. I mean, HIMS was growing incredibly well as far as operating cash flow. So honestly, I'm going to go with the same thing as our revenue growth. I'm going to do an operating cash flow growing by at least 15% for 2 consecutive quarters, and we'll leave it right at that. All right, just have a couple more to do, you guys. We're almost there, and then we'll click scan, and we'll see a full curated list of a bunch of small caps ready to take off. But let's name this one Positive OPS or OCF Trend, and then create our new condition group. And these next two are going to be much easier because the next one we're going to make is going to still be a fundamental, but we're going to do that EV to sales limit cap that I was talking about. So we're just going to do the EV to sales ratio is less or equal to just the constant value this time of, let's double check. I remember HIMS said 5, but let's go ahead and see what we're dealing with. So again, yeah, HIMS was 5, but I wanted to show you guys one other mention of the EV to sales on Teladoc, because even before Teladoc popped off and it, skyrocketed up here in 2020, it had a slightly higher EV to sales ratio of around 9. And so this is good context. I was going to make it 5 for the EV to sales ratio limit and just search for any stock with the EV to sales less than 5. But since I would have honestly wanted to catch Teladoc in this up move, I'm probably going to set it to 10. Even though it ended up crashing, you still could have definitely made money here. So to capture that, let's put an EV to sales ratio limit of 10. So we'll do EV to sales limit. And you guys can also import the scanner. It should be dropped in the chat below. And you can definitely, modify this if you guys use different technicals or fundamental filters, which is super easy. You can just import it to your account and modify it however you wish. But let's continue on. We're going to add our final condition group, and then we'll get to the results here. And this one's going to be super easy. I'm just going to click add a human language condition, and then I'm going to type price is greater than the 50-week SMA. Then just press enter, and it's going to automatically enter a parameter that only filters out stocks that are trading above this red or orange line, which is our 50-week SMA. And then what I'm going to do finally is click current candle. So that way it's scanning for the absolute most current candle and it's not trading in the past. And then we're just going to press scan, you guys. And here we go. This is going to be our list of curated results from all of the entire Russell 2000 index that was showing all of the similarities and same aspects that all of these runners were showing before they broke out, including HIMS, Teladoc before, it got destroyed in 2021 with Kathy Woods, and then Oscar Health, of course. And we'll let this load for a second here, and it's going to give us a curated list of stocks that we can go ahead and further analyze. Super easy. You guys can import this scan using the link down in the chat and just run it anytime. It'll be obviously constantly updated. It won't be the same list every time in the future, of course. So once we have this list, it's going to all load. And what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to click the watch list button up here, and I'm going to add a watch list into a new column. And I'm just going to add this scan result as a watch list, so we don't even have to have the market scanner open anymore. And it's pulling up right here. So I can just go ahead and close this for now, and we can just use the scan results as a watch list. And so we could take this list and pretty much just go through the line and analyze, the EV to sales ratio, the revenue, the operating cash flow, each individually. But, that would probably take quite a bit of time. And so I wanted to show you guys a way to essentially refine this list. Like, we have a list of 35 charts here, which is pretty good. It's not bad. But I think we can definitely refine it even further and really dive deep into the top maybe like 10 or even less stocks that are showing the most potential out of the Russell 2000. Even if you just took this scanner, you could easily have done that and just go through this list, like the measure the revenue growth, the EPS, all the stuff right there on your chart. But I'm going to show you guys a way to do it way more efficiently. But as you can see here, we have HIMS showing up on our chart. We have OSCR. We have these big small cap runners that we already analyzed, which is a good sign. But now, once you have the stock market map open, we're going to use what's called a bubble chart. And if it's not pulled up already, just go ahead and click add a map and then do custom bubble chart right there. And then you can do customize. And what we're going to need is we're going to need a list of symbols, which is a watch list. And so real quick, I'm just going to use these 3 dots on the scan results, clone these into a new watch list. We're going to name it small caps on radar. And now that we have a static watch list, we can go back to customize and then type the name of the watch list that you just made. For me, it's right here, small caps on radar. And then you can add a few different things to your horizontal axis, your vertical axis, and then the size of the bubble. I highly recommend for this specific case, what I found to work the best for me, at least, when I was analyzing and trying to find these next small cap runners, is I like to put the revenue on the horizontal axis, the EV to sales on the vertical axis, and then I made the size of the bubble the market cap. And so let me show you guys how to read this, because once you have it pulled up, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a bunch of bubbles, and this represents, each one of these bubbles represents a stock from our watch list over here. And so the horizontal axis, again, is the revenue. So anything far to the right, like OSCR, for example, way over here far to the right, is going to have the highest revenue. And then anything over far to the left will have the lowest revenue. And then top to bottom, the vertical axis is going to be the EV to sales ratio. So anything way up top up here is going to have a higher EV to sales ratio, and anything down low is going to have a lower EV to sales ratio. And then, of course, the size of the bubble is going to be the market cap. So the bigger the bubble, the larger the market cap of that stock. And so we're going to use this and basically use this bubble map to narrow down our results to even better ones, okay? And so OSCR Health is already way over here. It's far to the right. The bubble's pretty small, and it's way down towards the zero line, which means the EV to sales ratio is super good. But we already know OSCR is pretty much a winner. It did take some heat lately due to guidance being pulled from CNC, but that's fine. We're not looking for OSCR. We're looking for the next OSCR anyway, so we'll move on. This is SFM, Sprouts Markets, or something like that, and it has a market cap of 15 billion, so that's a little bit too high. It's probably going to get booted out of the Russell anytime now, to be honest, so we'll skip over that. So since we can skip over these, I'm just going to zoom into anything with an EV to sales ratio of, like, let's just call it 7, since there's only a few above 7. And then we'll start from like right over here, and we'll just zoom in here, and just, these are going to be the results we're going to focus on for now. This one looks really good. That bubble is pretty small, and it's really far to the right, which means it has a small market cap and high revenue. Great sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click it and add a yellow color flag to it. And that's going to also add this color flag to our watch list over there at the top right, which is great. And it's going to show the ticker right there in our bubble map as well. And I'm just going to quickly start just, color tagging a lot of the stuff that I see here, because honestly, all the ones in this zoom, in my opinion, look pretty good to be tagged. We see LTH right here. Pretty good. It's like the 4th highest revenue. The EV to sales ratio is just 3, so that one's good. HIMS we all know is a winner. We'll just skip that one. BE, this one looks pretty good. I mean, really anything in this view is going to be good. HL, BCRX, there's some decent names in here that I want to color tag. And then once we color tag all these, we could go ahead and analyze them even further. because this is going to give us, you know, a little bit more refined of a list, but I think we can do even better, you guys. I want to give you guys, you know, the absolute best looking stocks from this Russell 2000 index. So just stick with me here as I color tag these. TMDX, that one's been pretty hype as well. IRTC, we have some good names in here, and I want to make sure that we mark them all so we don't lose them once we lose this or close this bubble map. What do we got here? We got LCNB, RDVT, and ARQT. All right, so I got all these tagged, and I'll close the bubble map now. And you see we've narrowed it down a little bit, but I think we can do even more. And so in the chat below, we're going to drop a link for something I made called the Small Cap Radar Checklist. And it is a scan, but I want you guys to use this not necessarily as a scan, but as a visual script or a smart checklist. So when you go ahead and import it, you can just click the three dots right here and save it as a template, and you can name it whatever you want. And then we can use it as a smart checklist. So I already have it saved, so let me just close it. I'm going to go up to visual scripts at the top of my screen and open that, and I have it named as Small Cap Radar Checklist. And essentially what I've done here is I've done many of the same parameters that we did in the original scan, but I added some more you know, specific and confining results or parameters to it so that we can refine our results even more. And the benefit of using this smart checklist over a scan is that we're going to still be able to analyze every stock. It's not going to filter them out. It's just going to tell us, it's going to go down the checklist and tell us which one of these parameters is a yes and which one is a no. And so the first one I did is the closing price is within range of the 50-week SMA by at least 10%. And so we know everything that's already from our scan results over here is above that 50-week SMA, but this parameter is searching for it to be within range of it by 10%, because if it's already way above that 50-week SMA, there's a good chance you probably missed the move. And so this checklist item is going to ensure that it's trading near that support level, or maybe it's just breaking above it. And then as far as the fundamentals, it's the same stuff, but I added 2 additional quarters. For example, in revenue growth, instead of just 2 consecutive green dots with 15% growth, it's 4. Same with EPS and OCF. And so we want to just get a little bit more specific here just as we can, and we want to narrow this list down just a little bit more. And then also I added kind of a cool and fun one, which is a bullish seasonality filter. And what this is going to do is it's going to search for the current month to have a positive period seasonality greater than 60% of the time. So basically when this one lights up green, it's going to be stocks that have a positive, in this case, July, at least 60% of the time, which means they went up in July by any amount. And so I thought that was a cool one if you're planning on buying it now, to see what the seasonality is telling you. And so we're going to send this to our sidebar and see it as a smart checklist. It's going to pull up right down there. And then now we can go through each of our color tag stocks and compare it and see how it's matching up with our checklist. And so the first one here is ALHC with our color tag right there. And as you can see, this one's actually looking pretty good. I'm gonna put the revenue on. Wow, look at that. Great revenue growth right there. And honestly, when this revenue growth happened, the stock went down. Now let's look at the checklist now. It has a lot of yeses. What is it missing though? The only thing it's missing is net cash from operating activities, just 1 quarter of not growing. So let's just take a look at that real quick. So yeah, just 1 quarter, so like 4 quarters ago in Q2 of 2024 was red, but the last 3 were green, and honestly looking pretty good. The revenue absolutely spiked right there. So honestly, guys, I'm going to think this one is one of our top picks. So I'm going to change this color tag from yellow to blue. And I did do a little bit of research on this company. This one is a Medicare insurance company for seniors. So somewhat of the same. It's in the medical field, just like OSCR Health. It is still unprofitable, If we go through the OP or the EPS, you can see it is negative still, but it is trending very nicely, and that revenue growth looks really strong. So that is going to be one of the top picks from the Russell 2000 as a potential next runner. And look at this, guys. It's sitting right at the 50-week SMA. And so it definitely marks the check of being within 10%. Plus, look at the seasonality. 75%, 67%. Honestly, the next few months of this stock are looking incredible on the seasonality chart. So this is most definitely one of the top picks in my opinion. Not financial advice here, guys, but I mean, this is a great way to analyze the Russell 2000. I don't know of any way to do it better, honestly. This one here is trading way above our 50-week SMA AGX. So honestly, we're going to skip that one. Let's see. And we have AMBA. This one is interesting. It's trading pretty close to the lower end of its range right here. Let's take a look at the revenue. Revenue growth has been absolutely, honestly, insane lately. It has popped off. The last time the revenue was this high was back, look where it's trading. I was trading 3 times higher. Let's pull up the EV to sales ratio. The EV to sales ratio just went way down from like 11 to 6. So honestly, guys, this one looks great. I'm definitely going to color tag this one blue. Definitely color tagging that one. Let's see if anything cool is in the net cash from operating activities. Positive at least, and it's, you know, trending with at least these 2 green dots, which obviously we scanned for. And I did a little bit of research on this one too. This one is developing, it's an AI company, developing AI processing chips for stuff like cars, security, and robotics, which is obviously a very hype industry right now. And let me see this. I believe, yeah, it is unprofitable currently, as you can see by the negative EPS there at the top left. However, the revenue growth was phenomenal, at least recently, and it's back to its highs that it was trading at back in the peak in 2022. So definitely one to keep an eye on, you guys. And moving on, BCRX. Let's see. This one is looking, you know, it's trading at a relatively good range. And look at this. It's meeting every single metric from our checklist. So honestly, automatically, I'm just going to make this one blue because the smart checklist makes it that easy to see. And it's trading right above that support of the 50-week SMA. So could have a lower risk entry if you wanted to just play it and set a stop below that or something like that. But this company, let's put up the EPS and see if it's profitable. It is a biotech, so you never know with these ones. However, look at that. The EPS was negative, and then in its most recent quarter, it went to 0 or at least positive. So it basically just had its first profitable quarter. The revenue growth is off the charts, as you can see in the reports tab over here. And EPS just flipped positive for the first time. It has good seasonality for the next 2 months. Yeah, this is definitely a top pick in my opinion, you guys. Let's see what else we got. We got ARQT. This one has pretty good revenue growth. Let's see the smart checklist. Yeah, it checks a lot of boxes, you guys. The only thing it doesn't check, yeah, really that's it. I mean, it's trading technically above 10% off this 50-week SMA, it's saying. However, I mean, that's still pretty close, and it's clearly, you know, kind of consolidating, making a base here. So this is definitely one I would keep an eye on. I like this. I'll replace this one with the blue tag and keep that one as one of the top picks for sure. Let's check out the operating cash flow. It's negative operating cash flow. So no, it's okay. Let's move on. BE. This one has a decent amount of red checks here. 2 of the revenue growth ones, and I mean, if the revenue isn't growing, yeah, so this one had a really good revenue quarter, but it kind of dropped down. This is one's interesting. I think there's probably some better opportunities here. Let's check LTH. Actually, no, LTH. This is Lifetime Holdings. I used to go to this gym. It's a very overpriced gym, but it's very nice. I think it's honestly an overall good company, though. It just IPO'd in 2021. That revenue growth is really nice. The EPS growth as well. Let's check out the EV to sales ratio. It's trading at right under 3, so I think that's pretty solid. I like this one. I'll replace this one with the blue color tag. Next one on the list here is HL. This is Hecla Mining, I believe is the way you say it. Let's take a look at the fundamentals. Oh yeah, so this one, you can see this massive revenue jump right here. And look at the stock the stock price has been pretty choppy, honestly. And ever since this revenue jump, like it had a little bit of an increase here, but it's down since. It's still trading just right above that support level. Checks a lot of boxes. And look at that, 100% July seasonality, which means 100% of the time, apparently in July, it has had a positive period. So honestly, I like this one. And I think, yeah, I did a little bit of research on this. This is one of the largest primary silver producers in the US, and it's also a significant gold producer. And if we check out the EPS, I believe, yeah, it went from negative to positive recently. You can see that easily on the EPS reports chart over here. It went from negative here to now positive, which is always a very nice sign. When did it do that? So it looks like in quarter 2 of 2024, it went from negative to positive in this quarter, and the price jumped up and has came down since. So honestly, this one's pretty solid. EV to sales ratio is under 5, so I like it. We'll color tag that one. EL, I know we've been here for kind of a while. Kind of try to go through these a little quick. This one's just trading too far above the 50-week SMA for me. It's probably decent. Doesn't check all the boxes, so we'll just skip it for now. OSCR, we already know. That's why we're here. ENSG, this one's been in a really strong uptrend already. It's like solid EPS growth there and revenue growth. Let's check the EV to sales ratio. Pretty low, sitting under 2. I don't hate this one at all, but honestly, it's already kind of made its run. It looks like it had a nice base here and then a breakout, another breakout there, and it's trading at the higher end of its range. I'm gonna skip this one for now, but I definitely don't hate it. EAT, I mean, this one again trading way above that 50-week SMA. I think we can just skip it. Kind of same thing here. IRTC. Revenue growth is really consistent, but it has that pretty consistently negative EPS. I'm not a big fan. Let's go to KNSA. KNSA is relatively new. It came out in 2018. Has a decent amount of red boxes here. Revenue growth seems good. EPS trending in the right direction. Let's check out the EPS over here. Yeah, this one's not bad, but I'm not in love with it. Let's see what else we got. LCNB, super choppy chart. Revenue growth is pretty meh. Yeah, I'm not a fan. LEU, I think you can say, I think we definitely missed the run on LEU here, you guys. But yeah, it's okay. Let's continue on. SIBN, let's take a look here. EPS, pretty consistently growing, a lot of green dots. It is still negative though, so it's not profitable. So let's check the net cash from operating activities. Negative, yeah, I mean, it's okay. I don't love it. Checks a decent amount of dots on our checklist, but I think these other ones are better contenders personally. Let's see what we got here. Plot the revenue. This one had some nice revenue growth the past 2 quarters, but it's trading pretty high above its 50-week SMA. The EPS trend is eh. Yeah, honestly, the revenue trend is eh as well. RDVT, I don't know. This one looks like it has sort of a cup and handle right there already and is broken out. Revenue growth looks good, honestly. EPS trend is okay. EV to sales ratio sitting at 6 or so. Net cash from operating activities is growing, but I think the other ones were better. TMDX, this one has also been pretty hype on social media. We'll definitely take a look here. We have the revenue plotted. As you can see, it looks pretty good. Yeah, revenue growth is great. Let's see, and I think the EPS trend is also really great. This is one of the ones that went from negative here now to positive pretty consistently. So it went from negative to positive here in quarter 4 of 2023, and it's been on the up and up since. It did have this massive dump right here, and it's trading a little bit above that 50-week SMA. I wouldn't say this, I mean, it looks like a pretty good stock. but it has an interesting chart, and I think you'd probably want to wait for it to get closer to that 50-week SMA. And then SMBK, this one looks pretty solid. It's bouncing nicely off the 50-week SMA so far, but the EPS it's trending kind of sideways, and the revenue's kind of sideways. So that's pretty much all the stocks, you guys. So we've narrowed it down to just 5 of these blue checks, and that's going to be on HL, LTH, ARQT, BCRX, AMBA, and ALHC. And that is the stocks that I have found from the Russell 2000 that could be potentially the next big small cap runners, or at least are setting up just how OSCR Health and HIMS and HERS Health stock have set up before their breakouts above their 50-week SMAs. And so that is basically going to conclude this live webinar, you guys. I know it's probably been quite a while now. Sorry if this went a little long, but if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know in the chat towards the